on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone. I see Neha, you have joined. I can see Rahul. I can see Rohi. I hope you can hear me as well. Maybe you can use the chat window to write. Okay, somebody is asking a question. Yes, okay, yes, okay, okay. Okay. What about you, Rahul? Can you hear me as well? আমার কল আছে দিদি একটু নিয়ে যা আমার নাহলে ট্যাব ওই ঘরে আছে তো ওই যে ভেতরের ঘরে বেডরুম হ্যাঁ we'll just wait for 2 minutes. So just for the rest to join as well, then we can start. Hello. Hi all. So I just saw a question from Rohi. Let me just answer that first. So what I would like to do is that just to maintain uh, the the right way of doing the things, maybe I'll put all of you on mute, which I have already done. And then if you have any questions, maybe you can write on the chat window, right? And then we will have a Q&A kind of a time when we are going to have all the Q&A. Is that fine with you? You can write on the chat window, or you can write on the questions panel. Let me just unmute all of you for 1 minute. I think Isha is joining in as well. Okay, I have unmuted all of you. There is an unmute button that you can see on the right hand side in the panel that has launched. From there, you can unmute yourself and try to talk. It's just a test to understand if we are able to hear us clearly or not.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hi,
this is Rohit.
Yeah, hi,
Yeah.
Rohit.
Hi, Siddhartha. Yeah. Yes. So I was just talking like you can obviously unmute us and then we can write in the chat window.
Yeah.
But alternatively, we can also we won't be jumping into your teaching and we will just ask if we can
Okay.
because writing is kind of a might because we can all mute us when we are not talking. So
Yes.
that won't
Yes.
disturb you, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So I'll keep all of you unmuted only. If you would like to say something, maybe you can unmute yourself and say that. That I think is an easy idea, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I still see that Mugdha has not joined yet. So let me just quickly see if she's going to join. I have no way to ping her. I don't have my phone with me. Can you send a message on our Telegram group?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Isha.
He is facing some network issues.
Is
That's why.
okay, okay. What do you suggest? We'll start and maybe she can join in because anyways we are actually recording the session, so there is no problem, right? So maybe I will start sharing my screen. I hope you all should be able to see my screen now.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So first basic things. First of all, I'll assume all of you have installed Anaconda. If there is anyone who has not done that, can you please confirm? Is there any one of you who doesn't have Anaconda or have an Anaconda version which doesn't have Python 3? No, right? I'll take that as a no. I think all the attendees are here. Why 6? Hold on. Yes. Yeah, of course. There will be 6. No problem. Okay. So then let's do a few basic things first. If we have installed Anaconda properly, there is a small test that we can do. What we can do is, I hope you can see my screen. And here what you can do is that you can simply type Python -version. I think it will be double hyphen, sorry for this. Yes, and I can clearly see it is Python 3.7.4. Now, this may or may not match with what is there with yours. It is not a problem. It is really not a problem. If it is anything more than Python version 3.5, it will work. So there is no issue if it is anything beyond 3.5, but it should be minimum 3.5. Okay. The second thing that I wanted you to confirm on your command prompt is that can you type IPython and see if there is a shell which is already coming up. This is taking some time on my laptop. It may well be the case with you. I see Mugdha has joined as well. Mugdha, maybe you have missed a couple of points from the beginning. So just a small note. We are already recording the session, so I will be sending you the link. And the next thing is that by default, you all are unmuted from my side. Okay, so if you would like to say anything, if you have any questions, then what you need to do is that in the control panel section, you will find an unmute button to unmute you. And then you can unmute yourself and you can speak. Right. So what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to verify if we have the required tools or not. So if you all can still see my screen, I see that I have an IPython version and I have fired a command like IPython. I can see I have got a prompt and I can see the Python 3.7.4 is being displayed here. This thing 7.8.0 is actually relevant. What is more relevant is this. I'm actually getting a prompt. So this is a good thing. What I'm going to do now is that I'm just going to fire a sample command here, which will say I is equal to 10 and then print I. If I'm able to see this output, if I'm able to, if I am able to see this output over here, then it means I'm able to successfully run the commands inside the IPython shell. Now, please don't be wary about the fact that what this is and what this is not. We are all going to cover these things very well, right? I hope this is all with you. If you want to exit, this is the way you can do so. Exit and then 2 brackets, and then you can exit from the command prompt as well. Can I get a quick confirmation from all of you that you were able to follow what I did and you were able to do? Yeah, hi.
Hi Sudha, yeah, this is Rohi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried typing IPython, but no shell as such opened up on my PC.
Okay, did you
Although
get any errors?
Python is working from.
Did you get any errors or it is still running?
IPython is not recognized as an internal or external command, operable program or batch file.
I see. Have you installed the Anaconda?
Yes.
Yeah, I've installed it.
Okay. This seems to be an issue with path. So what I am going to do is that I hope you can see my screen. So what I'm going to do is that I will setting Anaconda path in Windows. You all are using Windows only, right? Or is there any MacBook or anything like this?
No, Windows.
No, right?
Windows
Very
only.
good. So what you need to do is to do here. So I'll just take this link and I will send it over to you. You can find out there is a way to put these things into path. So what we are going to do is something like this. See this path. This is the default path where it is usually installed. You'll have to find out where it is installed. Unless you have given any specific directories, it will be installed here only in Windows. So you need to take this and put this into path. How do you put that into path? I hope they have shown it over here. No, they have not. So what you need to do, let's say you have Windows 10 You go on the start icon which you have here, and then you right click on it to go to system. Okay, once you go to system, a window is going to open. Hello.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, right. So in this you can find path. Okay, and in this you can find the path, and from here you will be able to change it. Unfortunately, I can't because of a limitation on my laptop. So from there, from your system, you should be able to set this path, right, in the path variable itself, or maybe what I can setting Anaconda path on Windows. Yeah, this is a good one. Installing Anaconda on Windows. So I'll just paste these three into the chat window for the entire audience. Whomsoever is facing this problem can have a look. Although this is not really a problem right now, unless there's something which is not working on your system, which is what I'm going to try now. So that you have informed. I'll go back to command prompt, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to type this. You have to fire a command called Jupyter. If you're able to see an output which is actually giving some errors, that one of the arguments hyphen version sub command so and so is required. So if you are actually getting this kind of an error, then it means that at least the one that we need is installed. If that is not installed, we will have to use something else. Can you confirm if in your system this command is actually working?
No, this command is also throwing me the same error.
It is also not working, right? Okay, what about the rest?
Still doing.
I'm sorry, Isha, I think I missed you.
Still doing the. I'm taking the path and copying it with it.
Okay. Try to set the path and see if that works. Utha, Rahul, Saransh, I hope you can hear us, right?
Yes, Bhaumik. So
Okay.
it's fine for me at least. So
Okay. Fine. So once you have set up the path, let's not take much time because we need to cover a few things. So what I will do, I'll erase everything, and then what I'm going to do is that because Jupyter is opening, there's one thing that I wanted to show you upfront. Okay. Now I hope you are all aware of the programming language itself, but I just wanted to give you a small overview, and that overview is because it is going to help you understand what the use cases of this language are and what we are going to use this language for. So as you can see on my screen, there are at least 8 use cases which is mentioned here. This I took from the Edureka website only. So there is a blog from where I took the screenshot, where you can clearly see there are at least 8 areas where we can use this language. But what we are going to essentially do is that we are going to do this. We may want to do this. So I'm not going to highlight this. We are not going to do Internet of Things, and we are extensively going to do this. Okay, in some cases we are going to do this as well, because there might be some case studies where, or some examples where we will need some data which is already there in some website, and we may need to scrape the website to download the data. So that's where these 3 things are going to be used. So this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Okay, so these are the 3 things that we are going to use mainly. The rest of the things are part and parcel, but they are not going to be used as much as the usual things. Okay. The second thing which I wanted to show you, let me just remove this. Yeah. The second thing which I wanted to show you is what sort of language that we are going to work with now. So what we are going to understand this, because this is quite important for us to understand. I will also tell you why this is. The reason why I'm going through these basics is because I know some of you are already in college and not in the industry. So it is quite important that we start from the basics and then we are going to move over. Yeah. So we are here. If we are going to use Python for learning, then we are here. So here what it is saying is it is implicitly compiled into bytecode. What this means is, to understand this, we need to go back here. So these languages are actually compiled. Okay, the more you go on the left hand side, you go towards compiled languages. The more you go on the right hand side, you go towards interpret. Now compiled languages is where, let's say, C++. What happens is you write a code in C, you will have to compile it using, let's say, any compilers. Usually there are compilers like GCC. So you may have an IDE like code blocks or GCC as a compiler, by means of which you have to compile, which is going to result into some executable. Let's say you are working into Windows, we all are, then in which case we are going to result into an exe file. This exe file can be executed and then we can get the execution. Now the advantage of doing this, some people might find it very difficult because we have so many things to remember and so many things to do. The advantage here is because you have to explicitly compile. This is where the problem lies. This is where the crux of the matter is. Because you are explicitly compiling it, that means you are converting the source code into a byte code, and it will not get converted. As simple as that sounds, it will not get converted into a bytecode unless there are all of the errors fixed, which means if there is even a single typo, even if there is a very simple error in the command, in the syntax, in the language, then this program that you have actually written, howsoever small or big that might be, will not end up into an exe file, which means you will not get the executable. This is the advantage of these kind of languages, and unfortunately this is where we are. Right, so what this means is, I'll just remove this. What this means is our language is where we will simply create a source code and we are going to execute it. The interpreter, the Python interpreter, which we have already installed as part of the Anaconda distribution, that is going to by itself convert it just in time or into runtime, which is also known as JIT compiler, just in time compilation. So when you are going to execute a script written in Python, which we are going to see, you are going to, or the just-in-time compiler, which is part of Python, is going to by default convert it into a bytecode, which you cannot see, which you cannot change. It is there in the backend. It's going to execute it and then destroy. So that's how Python is going to work internally. And there is an advantage, there is a disadvantage. Advantage, unless and until you run the program, you don't know where you have created a bug. Why? Because in case of compiled, you wouldn't have been able to compile it at all if there is a bug. But in this case, there is no question of any compilation, right? It is near to an interpreted language. So you write, you execute, you come to know, okay, on line 23, I've made a mistake. I have to go back, I have to fix it. That's a disadvantage because you may have a lot of to and fro. That's an advantage as well. Why is that an advantage? Because time to market is reduced. If you want to write a code as simple as printing the Fibonacci series, you will have a quicker turnaround time as opposed to somebody writing in C++. Why? Because you can write things and you can try it out. So that's the main advantage. For example, the one which we did over here is that if I go over here and I simply type Python, so it is going to open an interpreter or a shell. Okay. Now, because this shell is open, I can type any commands over here. So let's say I want to print anything, let's say my name. So I'm just going to type this into quotes and it is going to give me the name. If there is any error in this print command, let's say that I have forgotten to give the brackets. Okay, in this case, directly it is going to give me an error. It is not going to ask me that, boss, you need to compile your program, then I'm going to give you an error when you're going to execute it. That's not the case. When you're going to run the command, when you're going to run any script, you can put all these things into a script as well, which we can do in situations like this. So for example, I'll go to desktop and I'm going to create a program called hello.py. Okay, so why I am giving a .py extension is because usually in Windows we need to give some extension. If in case you're working in a Linux environment, it is not really mandatory for you to give an extension. A file extension is only applicable when it comes to Windows, so that these files gets linked with any ID, or otherwise it is not really necessary. So if I do this on Windows, a notepad should be popping up. Do you want to create this? So I'm just going to erase all drawings and I'm going to say print Okay, and then I'm going to say this is an error. Okay, I'll save this. The file is saved. Let me save it once more. Why to take a risk? And then all I can say is Python hello.py, and it is going to execute. So this is where I have directly executed the code. I am not doing any compilation. And during the execution, it is throwing me an error that on this line number 2, syntax error, missing parenthesis. Right. So we are going to look into all these details. Please don't worry right now as to why there should be a parenthesis and so on and so forth. But as of now, this is what the programming language is all about. This is something that we need to remember. This is an advantage, this is a disadvantage. In case of, let's say, data analysis or let's say data science, you're going to use this as an advantage, because once you have your path and variable set up properly, you're going to use something which is otherwise known as a Jupyter notebook. Okay, this command that I fired some time back, this thing comes with a notebook feature. It is going to start a temporary server on your local system, on your laptop, based on which it's going to give you a web interface. In that web interface, you can code, you can write comments, you can write text, you can write your findings, you can do the visualizations, you can do a lot of things which are exactly and appropriately related to the data science lifecycle. Meaning, if I'm doing an analysis which I need to share by tomorrow evening to my boss, then I can use an IPython notebook or Jupyter notebook. Earlier, it was known as an IPython notebook. Now it is known as a Jupyter notebook. Jupyter is simply an enhanced version of creating a notebook. A notebook is where I'm going to write all my text, all my findings, all my code, everything at a single place. Then export that notebook either as a notebook or as a PDF or as an HTML or as a document. So simply somebody asks me to do an analysis of that same question which we touched in the last day. Is India going to win the match? I'm going to do the analysis in the notebook. I'll write all my findings, which we are going to do now as well. Yeah. So, and then I can simply share that with I don't know, with my boss or whomsoever is asking me to do that analysis, and he or she can play that without any software. So I can export that as a PDF. A PDF viewer is there with everybody. So that kind of a capability is there. So that's why we are going to primarily use, let's say, Jupyter. However, that's not to say that Jupyter is the only option you have. The best and the most valuable option that you have is known as IDLE. Okay, IDLE is an IDE that comes with Python itself. Irrespective whether you have installed Anaconda, whether you have installed, let's say, vanilla Python directly from Python site, this IDLE is going to come with that. Okay, so IDLE is an IDE that comes with Python. It is nothing but a simple white colored GUI or an interface. This kind of a desktop application takes some time to start, but then it gives you the capability of writing code. So this is the command prompt of let's say IDLE. From here I can do a lot of things. So for example, I can type things over here. Okay, and it is going to give me the outputs. I can try out all my files, all my scripts over here. I can even try to, from the options which is available here, I can create a new file. I can write all the programs, and then I can run it as well. So for example, I'll just click on a new file and write the some text. We are learning Python, and then what I can do is that run a module. Okay, to save. I'll save this file first. So I'll say hello2.py, and then I have selected the module to be run. It is going to be running in this window right now. Right, so I can write all my scripts. I can execute all my scripts. I'll just take a pause here because I think I have gone to some extent. We may have some questions until this point in time. If you have, please unmute and you can ask me. Hello. Hello. Is this clear to all?
Yes.
It is clear. I think
Yes,
you
yes.
have
Okay.
you have to unmute us.
Okay.
Okay.
I have already unmuted all of you, so all you need to do is to unmute yourself from the command prompt. I think Mugdha is saying it is clear. Very good. Okay, so then I think we can proceed. But then, irrespective whether we have been able to set up the path or not, I'll need to use Jupyter because I need to show you what I can do. Let me just close this window, and here I'm going to type Jupyter and say notebook. Okay, this is the first thing that I'm going to do. This is going to open up a browser. I've set my default browser to Chrome. It works on any browser. I've tried it on Internet Explorer as well. It does work. So there is no problem. So meanwhile, when this opens up, let's go through a few more basic things in Python. Yeah. Now, first and foremost, this is again a screenshot. I'm going to share this link or the documentation with you. Don't worry. The main advantage that we have is this. When it comes to Python, it is free and open source, right? But so is R, so is any other language. Then what is the difference? The second difference which is makes is the readability. It's quite easy for you to read. When we are going to write the code, you can see how easy it is. Okay, I'll not go into memory management because at least as part of data analysis, we are not going to do any memory management. I'll tell you why. In the last session also we touched based on this. If you remember, we saw that we have to use or we have to make use of libraries to do the data analysis or the machine learning kind of things, which are almost always written in languages like C, C++, and Fortran. So these are languages which are already the compiled ones. Hence, I do not need to care about the memory management right now. Maybe at later stage when I productionize things, then yes. The other advantage why we are using Python, this is almost similar to R as well, is the clean visual output. So the output that it presents is very clean, very direct. Whatever you ask it to do, its output is going to be very succinct. It's not going to put a lot of information unless you want to. Okay, there is one thing that makes the difference between R and Python, and that is the performance. I don't entirely agree that it has high performance because it is not a compiled language, it is an interpreted one. So the reason why I'll agree only with the performance, let's say, and not high, is that the libraries that we are going to use when it comes to data analysis are written in C++. Hence, if we make use of them, it's going to be really quick. Okay, and then we are going to use the IPython or the Jupyter notebook that we have. So before we move on to the details of the language, let's just do one thing. Let's see if this is opened. So see what it is doing. It is opening something, and then it is opening a URL. It is given a URL which is something like this, and then some token. It has already opened it on my browser. Okay, so this is no, I think I have opened it at the wrong place. Let me just do one thing. Let me quit it from here, and I will go back, and I will go to documents. Okay, you need to be careful from where you are opening it because you need to have access to all your okay. Here I have, yes. So this is my folder where I have the all the directories. So here what I am going to do is that I'm going to fire that command once more, Jupyter notebook. It should be starting up a session, and then from here we can start doing the things. So in the meanwhile, I hope there are no questions. If there are, please let me know. Let's wait for some time. Okay, I think it is open now. Good, good. So we are inside the root path. So when you open a Jupyter session like this, once your path and related issues are solved, at least for some of us, then you'll find that from the directory, I'll go back to the directory. So this is the directory from where I've opened it. I've created a directory for all the sessions that we're going to have. So here in this directory, I fired a command like this, which opened a URL like this. Okay, this is a local host because this is my system, and then this is the default port number where the application runs. Here I can see all the folders. What I mean by folders is that if I go back to my data science lectures here, I can see these are the folders that I have. Okay, so it is showing me all the folders. Inside the folder, I have this first class folder that I have created. Here I have this doc file, this Windows file that I was sharing, and here I can actually create my notebook. So I'm going to click on new. I see that there is only one option for me to create a notebook, and that is Python 3. The reason why I explicitly mentioned that is because as of date, Jupyter also supports R. Jupyter also supports a language called Julia. It is a functional programming language. It is really very good when it comes to machine learning because of its reliability and speed. But it is not as easy as a start as compared to, let's say, Python. It has a bit of steep learning curve because it is a functional programming language, right? So it's not as succinct as it is. I don't know why this is not opening. Maybe my laptop is slow. Give me 2 minutes. In the meanwhile, those who were actually getting the path issue, was that solved? Hello?
No, the path issue has not solved. I have, in the environmental variables, I have put in the path, and I'm hearing this thing.
I think I lost you for some moment, Rohi. So are you saying that you were able to solve it or it is still not working?
Yeah, I will maybe I will see it after this,
Okay,
and I will let you know if I am able to get it working or not.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I think there is some problem with this here. Something is wrong with my system because of which this is not open. Let me just do one thing. Try to open this in another browser. Let's see if that works. So, creating a new notebook. Okay. The moment I clicked here, it has started to work. Don't know how. Very good. Sometimes it may take some time. It actually depends on how good or how bad your laptop is. My laptop is not restarted from a long time, so that's the reason why it is taking so much of time. I'll just mention this notebook with today's date so that we can try to understand what we're doing here, right? So there are upfront two things that I wanted to show you. There are two things that you can upfront do in a notebook. You can write code, as you can see. If this drop down is selected with value as code, then you can write code. Or if this drop down is selected as markdown, then you can write something like this. This is day 1 Python programming. Okay. So this is how you can give the comment, and then you can write some code here. Maybe I'll write some more markdown as well. Firstly, we will print hello world, as that is the standard with any new language we learn, right? So we always learn a new language with hello world. I don't know why. So that's what we are going to print over here. As you can see, I am able to execute it. Now, as you may have already gauged, I am using some keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so the one that I'm using is Shift and Enter, but that is not really necessary. If you want to run, you can also click on this run thing over here, or you have a plethora of options which is there inside the menu bar which you can use. Okay, I hope it is clear until this time. Let's just progress with the rest of the things that we wanted to cover. So first of all, there are a couple of types of things that will come uh, towards us when we are going to do the programming. The first and the foremost being a keyword. These are, for any programming language, the text which cannot be used as part of the logic of the program. So what I mean by that is, I'm going to write a command where I'm going to, before writing the command, I'm also going to do something, which is I'm going to use this sign, which is the hash sign, and I'm going to say that this is a comment. So in Python, if I want to give a comment, this is one of the ways in which I can give a comment. The other way that I can give a comment is using 3 double quotes. Okay, this is also a comment, but this is a multi-line comment. Okay, so I can write any number of lines as I want. Okay, now what I wanted to show you is that I'm just going to remove this, and what I wanted to quickly show you is that I'm going to import a library. Now we are going to talk about this later. We will talk about this later on, but a library or a module in Python is simply equal to a Python script. Okay, that's it. So anything I import over here now to do anything, let's say, as we took an example on the last day, maybe Saransh has written a library or a module which is going to do the visualization. Okay, or maybe Rohi has a written library by means of which I can do statistics or I can do probability. So I can simply import that piece of code like a library, and in that library whatsoever functionalities is being written by the developer is available to him. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just like this document that I've created over here, I'm going to look at the number of or the list of keywords which is there in this programming language, for which there is also a library. So import the library called keyword. So what I'm doing here, I am importing the library named keyword. Okay, the moment I press shift enter, the library is imported. Just a moment. Okay, now the reason why this the command that I fired, import keyword, it ran is because part of my installation on my local system or wherever I'm trying to run this Jupyter notebook and thing where Python is installed, there must be a library folder. I'm not going to go into the details because I just simply don't want to confuse you, but you can look into the internet as well on this. There is almost always a library folder where all these programs are stored, and inside that library folder the code or the package or the library named keyword is already present. Had it been the case it is not present, it is going to give an error. Example given, if I want to import a library named Mugdha, is that going to run? The answer is no. See, it is executing. There is a star keyword here, it's trying to execute, and then it says module not found error. There is no such module named as Mugdha, which means either I don't have this library or it is not there in the library path. It is there, but it is somewhere else. It is not installed in the right way. The library doesn't exist, so on and so forth. So I'm not able to use this library. Let me delete this. Okay. Now, what I wanted to do with importing of this library, once that, or I should write like this, now that we have imported the keyword library, we can use its methods. Okay, what are the methods in Python, or for that matter in any programming language? A method is nothing but a functionality. Okay, a functionality which is present inside the library or the module that we have imported. In this case, the method that we are going to use is this kwlist. So I'm going to say keyword.kw list. Okay, and I see there is an error. The reason why, the library, just a moment. Yeah. Yeah. The library that I have imported as keyword, I have used keywords. So this is just to show you that it is a case sensitive and name sensitive statement as well. Okay, so you need to be very careful when you're typing this. There is one way to avoid this, and that is this. I just write key and I, yeah. Hi, sir.
Bhaumik, just one thing.
Yeah.
So when you're importing this library,
Yes.
this import keyword, shouldn't be it import keyword as something?
Yes, that is one another way. I was about to come into that, but that's not almost always the right way to do so. I will tell you that as well. In some cases, we do that because that's the most easy way to do. Okay. Yeah. But I will come to that. There are certain cases in which we do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I mean here after import keyword, you are trying to import one particular functionality from keyword library. Is that?
No, I'm not going to import any functionality. I'm going to call the functionality. So what I'm doing is, in the library called keyword, there is a functionality which can print the list of the keywords. So let's say I don't know what is the functionality. So I just press dot and then I do a tab. So ideal condition, it is going to show me a drop down of all the methods
Correct.
which is available inside the library keyword. So there are mainly two that I'm going to use, is keyword, and then I'm going to use keyword list. Now the question is, how do I know which one to use? Let's say I select KW list and I want to know what this is. So I just put a question mark here and I'm going to run the cell. If I put a question mark here and I'm going to run the cell, it's going to give me the help. Okay, it's a built-in mutable sequence. Okay, its output is a list. We are going to look what is a list, and it is going to output something. Okay, so it is going to output something of length 35. So let me just run this and see what is going to happen. If I run this, it is going to return me these things. So these are essentially the list of keywords which is there. So these are two things which we learned here. First of all, I use the library name, the same name in which I've imported it. Then I put a dot. I did a tab on my keyboard. It showed me all the methods. If I need to use any method, I simply select that method using the down arrow or the up arrow. I press tab. The method is used. I can put a question mark in front of the method. I can get the help. Or if I don't put a question mark, I can simply print it. Now, that is one interesting thing that you may have already noticed here. I did not use the print keyword. Okay, this is also a very interesting thing. Let's insert a cell below this and I will simply show you what I mean by that. Because you are inside a notebook, you do not need to necessarily use the print keyword. If you want to use, you can use. If you don't want to use, you may not want to use that. Okay, it doesn't really matter whether you're using the print keyword. In some cases, we are going to use the print keyword, but it is not a mandate. Okay, now something which Sarang mentioned is that why are we importing keyword like this? Why are we not doing it in a different way? So let's import a keyword library in a different way using something which is known as an ls. Okay, so what I'm going to say, import keyword as kw1. Okay, what this means is now this module keyword is imported with the name kw1, right? Let's say if my name is too big for somebody to spell, they can shorten my name with the first letters of my first name and last name. So my entire name gets shortened and it becomes SB. So in the same way, I have actually shortened keyword into KW1. In which case is this really helpful? If I have a library which is long in length, if I have a library name which I don't want to type frequently, I just want to make my life easier, or most importantly, if I have a library whose duplicate version is also going to be written by me. This is very important, very, very important. Let's say module keyword or library keyword is already present as part of Python installation. And what Ugdha is saying is she does not like the library. She is going to create her own library. She can give it the same name as keyword and import it with a different name, if you know what I mean. Right? So let's say she has created another library with the same keyword called keyword, and she has placed that into the library folder, and she can import that as KW2. This is Mugdha's library. Okay, and this is the default, default Python library. So this is one of the main advantages why people do this. If you are going to create a module and you're not sure whether that module is already created by some other developer and it's part of the Python package, then you must always use an alias. Otherwise, there will be problem. Okay, but in this case, I don't have any such kind of a problem. So what I'm going to do, I have imported keyword as KW1. Now KW1 dot, what was the function, what was the method? KW list. If I run this, it is still going to work because this is just an alias, the functionality is still there. One more way before we progress, importing the keyword library in a last and final way. Okay, this is yet another way to do it. Let's say this keyword has a lot of modules or a lot of features, I'm sorry, a lot of functions, a lot of, let's say, functionalities. I exactly know which functionality I want. It's a KW list. Let's say keyword has 100 plus functionalities, 100 plus methods, but I know exactly this one I'm going to use. In which case, what I can do, I can say from keyword, I think keyword is the name, yes, keyword dot KW list, from keyword import KW list as KL. Okay, this is one way to do. I have simply imported the method. This is really interesting to see because if I just type KL now, it is going to print the output of the method. I don't need to write a long statement like this as well. So this is how I can make my code as simple or as clean as I can do. Maybe what I'll do, I'll delete this from here and then I can write it over here. Okay, so this is how I can make my code very, very clean. So I'll just type KL and I get the output of KL, which is KW list. KW list is an import from the module keyword, right? If anyone has any questions until this point. Okay, I just have a small request to every one of you. Maybe we took some time to start. Maybe can we continue for another 10 to 15 minutes?
Yeah, sure, Siddhant. No problem.
Okay, fine. Because I just wanted to cover a few things before I really look into the rest of the things. Okay, so we'll start with a few basic, let's say, data types. So what I'm going to write over here is data types. These are types of variables or data that I can hold in Python or any programming language. Okay, I'll just come here and put one more so that it looks good. So I can now look into something which is known as the data type. So why I am looking into data types is because programming basics is what we are talking about here. We want to store some value in some variables. Okay, usually what I need to do in the programming languages that we have seen earlier, I need to define the type of the variable in which I want to store the data. Example given, I have age. Okay, so I need to define the data type, and then I have to say the variable name. Let's the variable name is vAge, and then maybe some value. This is also optional, right? So I can give some value here, and I can do some kind of a, let's say, semicolon or something, which is the identifier to end the line. Right. In case of Python, what we do is as simple as this. Okay, this is how we define a variable into Python. What has happened over here is Python has created a variable called vAge. vAge is a variable. Okay, its type is I don't know because I have not really given the type, right? So what I do, I use a function called type and I pass the variable vAge. I can see it is an integer type. Now I want to know this is a function. So type is a function by which I get to see the type of the variable vAge. How did Python know that this variable is going to be an integer? Because of this value. Because I have given a value, it has already understood what is going to be the value. Now let's see, can I define something v name which is blank? The answer is no. Can I create a variable which is name and I want to keep it empty? The answer is yes. I cannot simply call the name of a variable unless it is already declared. Example given, I can say vAge here and vAge is going to return me 10. Why? Because in cell number 16, I have already defined vAge is equal to 10, which is an integer variable. I've checked that. Now I'm trying to execute vAge, I get the output. In this case, if I don't have vName and I simply execute this is going to give, it would have actually given me an error. The reason why it is not giving me now is because I have already executed the command earlier, right? So if you want to declare any empty variables, you can do it like this, right? But what if as of now I have defined vname like this and I want to see what is the type of vname? I see the type of vname as str. This is one of the most fundamental data types or data structures that we are going to use in Python when we are going to play with, let's say, data science. String is one of the most complicated types. I can assure you nothing, absolutely nothing is as complicated as string. There is an entire branch of machine learning, if you choose to believe it, which works only on string. Okay, but let's not I'm not trying to scare you. This is as honest as it can be. A string has a lot of operations that we can look into. We're just going to look into a few of them right now. But the thing that I wanted to show you is vname is equal to 100. Is this code going to work? The answer is yes. If I type now what is the type of vname, it is now an integer. What is exactly happening here? I am declaring a variable, I'm not giving any type, it is automatically deciding the type. I don't understand. Here I'm not giving any value, it has automatically decided the type because I have used a quote mark. So it is quite clear that it has to be a string. I can call a variable like this, I understood. But then I reused the same variable which was a string into an integer now and the type has changed to integer. What is the meaning of all this? The meaning of all this is in Python programming language, type inference is implicit. You don't have to do an explicit a declaration that there is a variable to store the age and the variable is going to be an integer. There is a variable to store the name, it is going to be a string and so on and so forth. Python is going to do that automatically. This is an advantage, this is a disadvantage. Why? Advantage, I write less amount of code, right? Disadvantage, during execution, it's going to figure out the type, then it is going to assign the value, which means I'm adding an extra step on the compiler. Can I try to reduce that? The answer is yes. V age 2 is equal to 10. See, it is not asking me or it is not allowing me to declare something like this. Okay, at least in this case, it is not allowing. So what can I do? Okay, there must be some way in which I can declare a variable which is an integer. Is there any way? Let me see. Python declare integer variable. Okay, hopefully the documentation must open, or it can be something else as well, no problem. If you go to any website, the reason why I'm showing this to you is that you go to any website, there is no mention of any such entity, anything like a data type for the variables. You go to any website, you saw this search here, right? It returned a lot of search outputs. You go to any website, it's not going to give you even a single way to declare a variable by means of a data type. Yes, there are some things where you can explicitly define a data type. When it comes to Python, when it comes to variables, the answer is no. You cannot say int I is equal to 10. That age is gone. You could have done that into Java. Here you cannot do. Okay. That's the first thing to remember. For any data type, it is always type inferred. You cannot declare a type. Okay. Now, the most important variable that we saw here, we saw almost two variables right now, the data types we saw. One is an integer, one is a string. We first look into string, and then we are going to look into the integer. So in string, what we have functions like, these are some of the functions that I've taken a screenshot of. So the reason why I've actually taken a screenshot of is because this is a really, really important list, I could say. The reason why I like this list is because it is really highlighting a lot of good things here. So, for example, this len function, this is a function, this is an inbuilt function. Okay. Yes, one thing that I wanted to tell you, let me just quickly tell you, this is an inbuilt function. So, okay, so I'll just take a pen and I'll say this is an inbuilt function, okay, IB, okay. Why is this important to know is because in case of any inbuilt function which is there in Python, you do not need to import any module or any library. It is already there in your session. As long as your program runs, you already have those functions with you. Just like the keywords import, we did a import keyword, right? We did an import of a module called keyword. You do not need to import anything here to get the function called length. It will come out of Python out of the box. What it gives you in this case is the length of the string. Okay. Why is this important? You will understand when we are going to do a lot of exercises or when we are going to do actual data analysis. These things might sound very, 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 very idiotic to you at the first place. I understand when I was learning, these are things which I thought, ye sab to I have something, this is something I have already done in the first sem of my college. Why am I again trying to learn the length of a string and so on and so forth? These all are going to be really essential when we are going to do the data analysis. Right? Example given. I want to know if this string exists in a piece of string or not, right? So for example, there is, let's say, a big string, a big text. Inside that, do I have the string called char? If it is there or not, then it is going to return me something. It is going to return me the index or the position where it is. Okay, let's give this a try. You will you may find it interesting unless you are already aware of this. I'm really sorry for this. I had to go from the basics because I need to show you things. So again, I am really very fond of my name. So I'll use my name, and then what I'm going to do is that string dot find, right? So that is the function string name dot index. So here the string name is what? vname dot index, and then I'm going to find the index of bhaumik, right? So it is going to tell me 12. Why it is actually telling me 12 is because let's do a count. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. There are 12 items in front, and then it is actually giving me the index. However, this is wrong. If I am talking about index, then it should give me the position of where this word Bhaumik is actually starting, but it did not. It gave me 12. 12 is actually this here. This raises a very, very important point which you need to remember in Python. Irrespective of what other programming languages may have or may not have, in Python, because it is a proper programming language, the index always starts from 0. In Python, index always starts from 0. Okay, this is a very, very important markdown. Index always starts from 0. So that's why S over here is not 1. It is 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. So Bhaumik's B starts from 12th place. So that's the reason why it is returning index. Okay, this is something that we need to remember. But the reason why I just showed you this is because there is one more way of doing this as well. Let me quickly show this to you, and then maybe we can wrap up today. I can type the entire string here as well, and it is also going to return me the same output. Okay. The reason why I'm showing you these things.
It will be at this position out here.
Yeah, it will be 12
So,
only.
No, but the Sudastav bombing, the S in the Sudastav, so
Yeah.
that will be at 0th position.
Yes. So if I type SC, are you getting my point? So any indexing, a string works with indexes. A lot of
That's
other
with
data types.
0.
Exactly.
0, 1,
Any
2.
index is going to start with 0. The reason why we need to remember this, there are programming languages where they don't start from 0, they start from 1. So that's the difference between those languages and this language. Okay. Okay, before I close, I just wanted to tell you the reason why I find these things important is because when we do actual data analysis with a lot of text, with a lot of string, with a lot of numbers, we'll come to know what is the importance. So somewhere down the line, as of now, maybe in the first 3, 4, or 7 of these sessions that we are doing, you'll find it really boring. I clearly understand that, but I can assure you there will be a time when you really appreciate what we have learned. Okay. Unfortunately, I need to close this call now. I have some work to do. I'll make an end to the session. You have my mail ID. You can write back to me. Ohi or Isha, it will be great if you can let me know if we are able to solve the path issue. I will be having a recording of the session. I'll pass on to you the link so that you can have a look. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks all. I think I'll have to close now because I need to rush. I'll just share you all the details
Thank
after
you.
this call. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
the
Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Somik. Bye bye.